Let's talk about the Steelers and why this team is set up for the ideal NFL draft. When I look at the Steelers, they have addressed pretty much all their needs through free agency. They went out, they picked up Russell Wilson for dirt cheap, and they also made a trade to get Justin Fields as well. Since Omar has become the general manager with this team, they've done a lot of great moves. The first move that he made was trading Chase Claypool to the Chicago Bears for a second-round pick that eventually ended up being Joey Porter Jr. And that was a phenomenal pickup for the Steelers because in the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season, Joey Porter Jr. looked like a true #1 cornerback in the NFL. Now, can he go out there and do that on a consistent basis? We will see as he's approaching his sophomore season. But they also went out there and they made some trades as well with some departures with this team. They went out there and they cut 2 offensive linemen. Big Chuck's at the tackle position. He got cut. And they also went out there and they released Mason Cole as well. Now, Mason Cole was a very interesting center with this team. When they first picked him up, he was a solid center. But we saw him over the last couple of years. He was not the same. He was rated as one of the worst starting centers in the NFL. I believe the ideal situation for the Steelers in the first round is to go and draft a center and an interior lineman in general. And I want that guy to be Jackson Powers Johnson, the center from Oregon. Phenomenal interior offensive lineman. I think that he will mesh very well with Broderick Jones. This is an offensive line that has not looked the same since guys like Maurice Pouncey has retired, Andrew Villanueva departed the team, and also David DeCastro as well. When those names left, we saw the offensive line get progressively worse season after season. And they haven't been completely the same since Mike Munchak was no longer the offensive line coach with this team. Over the last couple of years, they've added in some new pieces. I like Broderick Jones at the tackle position. I think that he could be a franchise tackle with this team. You also brought in Isaac as well in last year's free agency class. He wasn't the same interior lineman that he was with the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's still a solid guard to have with this team. You bring in Jackson Powers Johnson, that is filling in a huge and major spot that the Steelers need most right now on that offensive end. I know a lot of people may say, well, they traded Deontay Johnson. They need to go out there and trade for a guy like Brandon Ayuk, or they need to go out there and he try to go get a wide receiver in the first or second round. I would say this about the Steelers. They draft very well in terms of going out there and getting star wide receivers. Deontay Johnson was a very good wide receiver with this team. George Pickens is a star with this team. They drafted Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace many years ago, Martavius Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster, so they can go out there and get a wide receiver in the second and third round. I'm not worried about that. I don't want this team to go out there and trade for a guy like Brandon Ayuk, because if you go out there and trade for a guy like Brandon Ayuk, you have to pay him and you have to give up draft capital as well. And I don't know where those rumors are coming from. I believe that he will stay with the San Francisco 49ers, and if he is traded, I don't see the Steelers going out there and trading for him. I know that the Steelers have went out there and they've been very aggressive throughout this entire free agency period, because Omar said he wants to go out there and not only contend for a Super Bowl, he wants to win a Super Bowl. But at the same time, the Steelers are not known for going out there and just trading draft picks for players like Brandon Ayuk and paying them immediately as well. It will be a great fit with this team, but I don't think that is necessary with how deep this wide receiving class is. You could easily get you a very good wide receiver in the second and third round and plug those guys in alongside George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth as well. And it brings me into George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth. When I look at George Pickens, he is a true #1 wide receiver with this team. I made that prediction last offseason with this team. He came off a very good rookie season, and he came off a very good season this season as well, with guys like Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph throwing him the football. George Pickens had over 1,000 yards receiving. He had 1,140 receiving yards with just 63 catches and 5 receiving touchdowns. He was averaging 18 yards a catch. That is ridiculous. I think if you get him more involved into the game plan, he could easily go out there and get 13 to 1,400 yards in the season. That is how special he is. But you also have another wide receiving threat on this team as well. Well, just a receiving threat. And Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth is a very good tight end. The production has dipped since Big Ben retired, but let's not forget, this kid looked like a superstar his rookie season. He can still be a very good tight end with this team if Arthur Smith gives him the opportunity to, and Mike Tomlin gives him the football more as well. And I expect for Pat Freiermuth to go out there and have a great season this season with Russell Wilson throwing him the football. football. Russell Wilson may not be the same Russell Wilson that he was a couple years ago with the Seattle Seahawks, but he is still a very good quarterback in the NFL in terms of getting the football to certain targets on the field. Is he a top 5 to top 10 quarterback? No, but he's one of the best options that the Steelers can have right now. And he's a better option than Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. And some would even say he's a better option than Mason Rudolph as well. The very interesting point with this Steelers draft is this: they should not be touching the quarterback position until it's the 5th or 6th round. If Joe Milton is there, then you select him late in the NFL draft, because that kid has a cannon and he could potentially be a very good quarterback moving forward. But you have Justin Fields with this team. Now, I'm not saying that Russell Wilson or Justin Fields are going to lead this team to the promised land of getting to a Super Bowl, but they're very good options in terms of not having to go out there and draft a quarterback between rounds 2 through 5, because we all know that the Steelers are going to go out there, they're going to target offensive line in the first round. The second round, they can go with a defensive player or wide receiver. In the third round, everything can break loose then. But I don't see this team going out there and trying to get a guy like a Spencer Rattler on the team or trying to go into a different direction like that. Usually the Steelers always have 3 quarterbacks on their roster, and I expect for them to draft a quarterback in this class as well. Yes, they have Kyle Allen as a 3rd quarterback with this team, but we will see if he can make the roster in the next couple of months. But I like the situation that the Steelers are in. They just have to go out there and target the offensive line, because we saw it this season. Even when the offensive line was not at its strongest, we saw Najee Harris go out there, rush for over 1,000 yards. He had 1,035 rushing yards on the season, 8 rushing touchdowns. You also have Jaylen Warren as well, who has 784 rushing yards on the season and 4 rushing touchdowns. I know that you have 2 brand new quarterbacks with this team, but the way for the Steelers to go out there and to win football games is to basically go out there and run the football as much as possible and put Russell Wilson in those play action situations. And do not put that much stress on Russell Wilson. You could do what the Denver Broncos did with Sean Payton. Run the football on 1st and 2nd down. If it's 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4, let Russell Wilson go out there and throw the football to Pat Freiermuth or George Pickens. And you also have Calvin Austin III with this team as well. Now, Calvin Austin III cannot run the crispest routes on the field, but he's a major deep threat with this team. In terms of just getting the football and going, he could be a very good, valuable option with this team. They have Van Jefferson as well, but they definitely have to go out there and get another wide receiving threat to help out George Pickens. Just because I'm high on Calvin Austin III, he's not a true number 2 wide receiver in the NFL just yet. Their second best receiving threat is Pat Freiermuth, but I believe that you target the offensive line first, then you go with those wide receivers. As far as the defense, Omar Khan set him up very nicely. They went into free agency and you picked up Patrick Queen. Now, I'm not as high on Patrick Queen as some people. Some people love Patrick Queen. I will say this about Patrick Queen. He was about to get his 5th-year option decline until Roquan Smith came over there. And it's not me saying that he's a bad football player. I think that he's a solid linebacker to have. He's just being overrated right now by a lot of Steeler fans. I think that he can go out there, stop the run. He's a guy that can go out there and blitz the quarterback as well. But in terms of just being the best interior linebacker on the field, I don't think that's what he's going to be with this team. I still think that's going to be Cole Holcomb, because let's not forget, before Cole Holcomb went down with that knee injury against the Tennessee Titans, he was a very good linebacker with this team. Then you had Quan Alexander come in. He looked very solid before he tore his Achilles. So having Patrick Queen play alongside Cole Holcomb, that's an excellent move. So you don't have to touch the interior linebacker spot early in the NFL draft either. And then when you look at the secondary, they traded Deontay Johnson for Dante Jackson with this team. And Dante Jackson is a very solid cornerback that is coming over from the Carolina Panthers. Now, he's one of the faster corners in the NFL. The only thing with him is that he has been dealing with injuries over the last couple of years, but he's a solid cornerback to have alongside Joey Porter Jr. You got younger there and got more athletic on the defensive side as well by adding in Patrick Queen and also adding in a guy like Dante Johnson as well to pair him up with Joey Porter Jr. And you have Minkah Fitzpatrick. Now, Minkah Fitzpatrick had a down season this season, but he dealt with a lot of injuries. He had a broken hand. He was just beat up this entire season. But we know when he's fully healthy and when he's on full go mode, he's one of the best safeties in the NFL. And, of course, you have Alex Highsmith and T.J. Watt. I would love for them to go out there and get another defensive lineman that could go out there and get pressure on their own without T.J. Watt being on the field consistently, because T.J. Watt has dealt with injuries over the last couple of years in the NFL playoffs and through the NFL season as well. And when T.J. Watt doesn't play, we all know that the Steelers struggle to win football games. And we all know that T.J. Watt is one of the best defensive players in the NFL. In my opinion, he's the best defensive player in the NFL. 19 sacks on the season, four forced fumbles, and 1 interception as well. Then you also have Keanu Benton, who's a very interesting prospect with this team. I think that he could be a very good interior defensive lineman over the next couple of years as Cameron Hayward continues to decline and play. Now, Cameron Hayward is not a terrible defensive lineman, but he's not the same Cameron Hayward he was 2 to 3 years ago. And we're starting to see him slow up a little bit, but he's still a very good veteran to have around with this team. And I like Larry Ogunjobi a lot with this team as well. So the biggest need with the Steelers, once again, would be offensive line, wide receiver, and then possibly going out there and targeting a cornerback in the 3rd or 4th round, just in case Dante Jackson or Joey Porter Jr. goes down, because Joey Porter Jr. did go down in that Buffalo Bills game in the NFL playoffs. But let me know in the comment section below, what should the Steelers do in the NFL draft in the 1st round? Should they go out there and draft the offensive lineman, or should they trade that 1st round pick to go get Brandon Ayuk? And like I mentioned before, I don't see that happening, but it's a lot of rumors right now about that being a possibility. I just don't see that happening. I see Brandon Ayuk staying with the San Francisco 49ers and the Steelers selecting a wide receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round. But let me know in the comment section below, what should the Steelers do in the NFL draft? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.